Hi, everybody. How you doing? I am Johan. That is Chuck.
What's up?
Joining us on today's Better With Age webcast, we have, I call him the king of comedy in Canada, probably worldwide. I'm going to say that right now on our show. I'm going to claim that out. Joining us today, Mr. Brent Butt. Brent, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good. Chuck's got
Do you feel like the king of comedy?
King of comedy worldwide, I believe, is probably a bit of a stretch. I don't want to start the podcast being, contradictory.
I'm showing you love, Brent. I'm showing you some love
I
here
appreciate
to do that, but it's funny.
Don't think I don't appreciate it. I just want your listeners to know that wasn't in my bio. I didn't provide that. Say you must. Please refer to me as the king of comedy in the world.
Yeah, that was all me. I'll take the blame. But one thing I got to initially say, because some of our viewers might be used to me, and Chuck is always used to me swearing. And on the show, we normally can swear. But Brent, I got specific instructions from my mom. She's an 83-year-old Guatemalan lady, and she lives in Saskatchewan. And when I told her about the show, she was, and forgive my Guatemalan Canadian accent at the moment, she's like, Johan, you cannot, she goes, what? I said, we're having Brent Butt on our show. She goes, what is your show? I said, the show I do with Charleston. She goes, is it on TV? I said, no. And she goes, I said, no, it's on our webcast. She goes, what's a webcast? I said, anyway, we're having Brent Butt on the show. And she goes, okay, but don't you swear in front of the Mr. Brent Butt. So I specifically got told by my mom,
my Lord,
I cannot swear because she loves you. She watches you every day with my father, who is from Rose Valley, not too far from your hometown. So that's the way Chuck.
Well, I appreciate that. And you don't have to burst your mother's bubble and tell her that I'm filthy mouthed most of the day.
I was going to say,
I generally work.
She ain't say I couldn't.
Yeah. To pick up the slack. But no, a lot of my friends are, most of my associates are greasy nightclub comedians, and we talk very filthy most of the time.
You're going to break my mom's heart, so I'll be able to do that. But as long as we don't swear here today, that's okay. That's no problem. Brent, how are you doing in Vancouver? It looks like you're chilling out. You're relaxing out there. How's life for you now?
Good. Yeah. No, I've been living here in Vancouver since, I'm trying to do the math. I've been here like 28 years. Vancouver's been home for me since 1993. And, I always say I didn't move to Vancouver. I came out here to do some stand-up and just never left. I fell in love with the city. And, you got to be somewhere. As long as there's an airport, you can do stand-up. You can live anywhere where there's an airport. And so when I first came out here, I had about a month and a half worth of work lined up, in Vancouver and in the Okanagan and over on the island. And I thought, Vancouver's such a beautiful city. I always fly in, play a club, and leave. I never get a chance to check out the city. And I have some friends who live here. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to hang out here for a couple of months. And here we are, pushing 30 years later.
Well, it's a beautiful city.
I love it.
It's a beautiful city. Chuck, how are you doing in TO after the big win against Winnipeg? Obviously, you should have been playing today against Edmonton, but how's everything there?
Yeah, man. We going through it right now because it's a different type of season, really, man. We just got a game that got postponed because of COVID. I guess a couple players on Edmonton's team, they had COVID, tested positive, so they shut the whole team down, put everybody in quarantine, and that just left us in limbo, really, because we don't even get paid for that. So that's one week check that got postponed or potentially lost, which is
brutal.
Sucks. But now I'm just porched up, looking out the patio.
You should get it. Ask some tips from Brent and see if you can get into stand-up comedy here for a week in Toronto and see if any advice he has to give to you.
Yeah, that's a great way to make a lot of money. Get into Canadian show business. That's a rocket ride to the top.
Yeah, maybe not. Okay, maybe go do something else. But let's talk about that for a bit, Brent. On how
the old saying, he's as rich as a Canadian entertainer. You know that old saying?
Yeah, of course. Brent, let's talk about how you got into comedy, because that's a fascinating story. Whenever anybody asks them, they go, "Hey, where's Brent Butt from?" We're like, Tisdale, Saskatchewan. Yeah. How the heck does a guy from Tisdale, Saskatchewan become the Johan Lazinski proclaimed king of comedy worldwide?
That's strange, man. Tisdale, it ain't even enough people to be funny there.
You got nothing to do but be funny. That's your only option. Be funny or be drunk. Often both.
Well, we should tell Charleston before you get into that. Charleston, did you hear the news about Tisdale last week too, or 2 weeks ago? What happened in Tisdale?
No.
Okay, so a helicopter, a guy who owned a helicopter came and landed in Tisdale. Now, Charleston, why do you think he'd be landing in Tisdale with a helicopter? What purpose do you think it was of his to land in Tisdale?
Man, I would assume that he was showing off for the whole entire city, but wedding.
No?
Oh, wedding. That's a good guess.
Yeah.
But no, it was more specific. He landed because he wanted to get a ice cream cake from Dairy Queen.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. So he's flying. Now, here's the thing: I didn't hear. They didn't clarify whether he was just flying on unrelated business and thought, "Hey, there's a Dairy Queen down there. Maybe I'll zip down and get myself an ice cream cake." Or if he was somewhere else and was going, "God damn, I could really go for an ice cream cake." Yeah. Where's the nearest Dairy Queen? Oh, I can't drive there in time. I better take the helicopter. Like, was it a purpose? Was it a destination trip, or was this a whim?
That's a great question. I don't know what you're the one from Tisdale.
It don't even seem legal that you could just fly a helicopter right in.
It was absolutely not.
Somewhere random.
He did.
It absolutely was not legal. He seemed like he was unaware that it was not legal, but he was taken away by authorities.
And he got.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, like, what the.
What he got?
And when I say authorities, I mean a couple of defensemen from the Tisdale Ramblers. Took him into the park and fed him.
Yeah. He got a ticket like for $4,000 too, I think. But when you own a helicopter, I don't think $4,000 is, like $4 to Charleston. So
it's a pricey cake.
Money.
Yeah.
A piece of Dairy Queen cake. So Brent, tell us about a guy from Tisdale making it to the big spotlight now. How did that happen?
Well, for whatever reason, I can't tell you whatever psychosis or neuroses is behind it, but as a little kid, I was just fascinated with comedy, and I loved getting laughs. And I'm from a big family. I'm the seventh kid. I'm seventh of seven. And, we grew up pretty poor, and we didn't have a lot of money and we entertained each other a lot. It fell in the family to entertain each other. And being the youngest kid, I think there's something in the fact that, because I remember on the rare occasion that I made my older brothers or sisters laugh, it was the best feeling in the world. And I think that's what hooked me into trying to be funny, because just that feeling of like making my older brothers and sisters laugh, because they wouldn't give it up easy. Most of the time they'd say, "Hey, you're just being stupid," And so if I ever did get a laugh, I knew it was legit, and it was such a good feeling. And I think that's what started my neuroses to try and get laughs. But I loved comedy. I watched anything that I could that was comedic, old black and whites that my friends weren't interested in. I was riveted by. And, we only had 2 channels on TV, so there weren't a ton of options. So anything that came down the pike that even professed to be remotely comedic, I would hunker down and watch it. And when I was 12 years old, I saw a guy doing stand-up on TV. I'd never seen that before. I'd seen, sketch comedy and sitcoms, but just a guy standing there talking, trying to be funny. I'd never seen that before, and I was fascinated. And it's the only thing that made sense to me. It was like, well, I only had 3 potential, targets in my life for a life path. One, to be costume superpowered crime fighter.
Oh yeah,
I knew pretty early that was far-fetched. Although I did also want to draw a comic book. So I took a run at that kind of in a roundabout way. The other goal was to be an NHL goaltender. I played goalie. I played goal growing up, but I was realistic enough to know pretty early on that I don't think I have the talent level, and I didn't have the desire either. Like I enjoyed playing goal, but it wasn't one of those things where I was like, oh, I live and breathe hockey, you know. And you're not going to make it to the NHL without that. So the only other thing that I wanted to do for real was try stand up. And so I did that in high school, did that, you know, got enough response that it encouraged me to think that I could do it. And when I was 21, there was a club that opened up in Saskatoon that had, it was a comedy club and it had amateur night on Thursday night. So I phoned down and started doing amateur nights, Thursday nights.
That is awesome. And then away you went. And then what a wild ride it's been.
Yeah. No, it really has. I was encouraged to, like, I fell in love with it right away. Well, my first show on amateur night is still, I've said, is probably the best show I've ever done.
Why is that?
And it's not uncommon either. I hear this from a lot of comedians. Their first time on stage in a club goes really, really well. And mine went really well. Like, you know, I blew the roof off the place. It was, and I thought, wow, this is it. And then the second show, not so much. A lot of blank stares. But the fact that first show had gone well kind of told me that, okay, you can do this. You're going to fall on your face sometimes, but you know, this is something you can pursue. I think if I'd bombed my first time up, you know, it might have been a little more discouraging.
Yeah. Charleston, do you ever remember a comedian, who's a comedian you remember growing up that you just loved since the get-go?
Ooh, you know what? The funny thing is I was just watching, and this was randomly. It wasn't even for the show. Usually I do some homework and I study up on the people that come on the show, but I ain't do no homework.
That's BS.
I just said I'm gonna come in and...
You never do homework for the show. Brent, this guy, he'll tell me, he'll ask me 30 seconds before the show, hey, so who's this guest again? And what are we doing? But with you, he actually booked it.
We've shared pancakes, yeah. Charleston and I. We've had pancakes together.
Where is this at?
No,
somebody's home.
But I was watching Def Comedy Jam.
Oh, yeah.
So I was watching old school Def Comedy Jam when they had like Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy and Bernie Mac. But I'm a real big fan of Bernie Mac, man. I think he's a funny guy.
Oh, man.
He comes off naturally funny in everything he says.
When he came out at the, I think it was at the Apollo, and it was like a really tough crowd, and he had this famous set where he came out. The crowd was kind of eating up everybody, just like chewing them up and spitting them out. And Bernie Mac walked out and he said, I hope your mother isn't listening to this. Because Bernie Mac just walked out and he said, I ain't afraid of you motherfuckers. And it just, boom, just turned the room around. They were right on his side right away. And then he just started doing jokes. And every now and then he would just stop and he'd say, I ain't afraid of you motherfuckers. It was great.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great example of a guy just taking over a room.
Who stands out then for your mind, Brent, that you ever watched growing up there? Like, man, I want to be like that, or really captivated you as a comedian and you were looking up to back in the day?
Well, there weren't too many, you know, like specifics, because like I said, having the two channels, my one outlet into stand-up comedy was this afternoon talk show to Vancouver. It was called The Alan Hamill Show. And later it became The Alan Thicke Show. Mm-hmm. And they would have, so when I was home from school in summer holidays, this show came on in the afternoon. And that's, like I said, that's where I first saw stand-up. So I made a point of watching it because at the top of the show, they would say, you know, today's guest. And if they had a comedian, then I would watch it. If they didn't have a comedian, I'd often go out and play with my pals or whatever. But if there was a comedian, I would stay in and watch it. And it was hugely encouraging to me because for a couple of reasons. One, it was, and I didn't know this at the time, but it's where I first got to see some of the real legit kind of club comedian powerhouses at the time. It's the first place I saw Richard Lewis, David Brenner, a lot of like great stand-ups would, if they were coming through Canada or even northwestern US, they would pop up and do this TV show. But also, it was very encouraging to me because they would feature Canadian stand-up. So you'd see Lawrence Morgenstern or Larry Horowitz or Mike McDonald. So the fact that there were these Canadians doing the show, speaking to me as a young Canadian, it made it seem possible. I think if every comedian that I saw on that show had come from LA or New York, I would have thought, oh, well, you can't.
Yeah.
But here was people who, were from Canada like me, and they were doing it. And it just somehow made it seem valid, made it seem possible.
Yeah. That's awesome.
No, that's crazy. That's crazy good. Nice, man. Every time I think of like comedians and like I just look at it this way. Do you get tired of people when they come up to you, they expect you to always be funny? Like, do you ever get mad? Like, they always expect you to be happy. Like, you're a comedian, so everything you say is a joke.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, most people don't think that way. Most people are smarter than that, but there are a percentage of people who do think that way. And so I often get like, I'm kind of I'm a daydreamer a bit. And so people will often see me. This is my face the bulk of the day. I'm trying to figure out a story or something. I live in my head a lot. So this is my face for a lot of the day.
Not
like
even.
I just kind of, just stare like this. And so people will often come up and go, hey, come on. Why are you so sour? You're a comedian. You're laughing. Like I'm supposed to have a rubber nose on, honk. But for the most part, it doesn't bother me. But here's what I've taken to doing. I started doing this years ago, and it's very, very satisfying. So if I'm at a party or something or some gathering, and I get introduced to somebody who doesn't know me, and they say, this is Brent. He's a stand-up comedian. And they say, oh, you're a comedian. Hey, tell me a joke. So what I've taken to doing is I begin telling a joke, but I'm just making it up as I go along. And I try and make it the longest, dullest, most boring joke with a lot of backtracking. I'll be like, so there's two rabbits at the top of a hill, right? And the two rabbits are standing there and they're looking down at the hill and they can see the town down below them, right? And the one rabbit says, I forgot to say, they both have skateboards. So the two rabbits, they got skateboards. And the one rabbit says to, no, hang on. It's one rabbit and it's one possum. I got that wrong. It's one rabbit and one possum. So the rabbit says, I do this for as long as I can until they finally go, what the hell? This is the worst joke of all time. You're no good at it. And I just like see how much of their life I've taken away from them. You can never get that time back. I've enjoyed our encounter immensely. You, on the other hand, can never get this 18 minutes back.
Moral of the story for our viewers: do not ask Brent Butt to tell a joke. So the one thing, Brent, that I saw on your Twitter feed, or I think it was on your podcast, and it's funny too because a few weeks ago I was at a wedding and I was telling some of my cousins. My cousin Dalton's, I think he's about 21, 22, and we're talking about. I said Brent Butt's going to come on our show, and he goes, "Oh, I love that." And I was like, "You love it? You're 21." I said, "You live in Lethbridge. You're going to baseball school there." He's like, and his girlfriend said, "Yeah, I love that show too." How the hell do you captivate such a wide, diverse group of audience, from young Canadians to 83-year-old Guatemalan mothers, and and everybody in between, to professional football players like that? When you started off with your either the comedy act or Corner Gas, did you expect to have such a diverse crowd? Like, everybody knows Brent Butt and Corner Gas here in Canada, and they love it. They love it.
No, we never did. Like, we thought, and I think this ultimately played into why it worked. When the show got picked up, when it got bought for 13 episodes, like, we didn't shoot a pilot or anything. We wrote 2 scripts, and based on those 2 scripts, the network said, well, let's just do this series. Let's do 13 episodes. So they bought 13 episodes. So now we're in production. And my attitude kind of going into it, this was great. This is going to be a fantastic thing to do for the summer. Clearly, nobody's going to watch this show, right? We're making a show about a gas station in Saskatchewan. Nobody's going to watch the damn thing. So we'll do these 13 episodes. We'll have a hell of a good time. And we'll walk away with a few nickels in our jeans, and we had a great time. But nobody's going to watch. And I think what happened was that attitude made us kind of not worry about trying to find a demographic or appeal to this group or that group, or, you know, it just took all that away. And what it left us with was this notion of, well, let's just do a show that we're proud of, because nobody's going to watch it, so it doesn't matter. Let's just do a show that we think, that we like, that we're proud of, that we think we did a good job. And I think because we weren't kind of chasing an audience or chasing a demographic, what ended up happening is we created a show that was kind of authentic in a way. And I think audiences are pretty savvy. They could tell they weren't being sold something. They were. Here was a show that didn't have an agenda. It was just trying to be a funny TV show. We weren't trying to be anything else. We weren't trying to be cool. We weren't trying to be edgy. We weren't trying to be hip. We weren't trying to be young. We weren't trying to be old. We were just trying to be funny. And I think when you peel all that other marketing crap away, people are people. And we have far more similarities than we do differences. I don't care if you're an 83-year-old Guatemalan lady or a 6-year-old boy from Nipawin, Saskatchewan. You're 99.9% the same, whether you want to hear it or not. We're all, you know, there's a universality to the human animal. And that's why we would get, you know, I remember we would get emails from people. In the same week, I remember we had an email from a guy from Sweden who said, this is exactly like the town I grew up in Sweden. And we had a guy from New York say, this is exactly like my neighborhood in New York. Same thing. There's a cranky old guy there. So, you know, the characters are kind of archetypal. You know, everybody knows a cranky old guy. Everybody knows a couple of authority figures who are in charge, but probably shouldn't be because they don't really know what the hell they're doing. Everybody has that, you know, that one dopey buddy that you're not sure why you're friends with, but you've been friends since you were kids, and you're like, I love the guy, but God, he's a pain in the ass. You know, so people relate to the characters, and I think the cast that we cast to play these parts, these actors, there was some magic in what they did.
Yeah, unbelievable magic to the point that that's one of the things I was going to ask you later on, but you ended up marrying one of your co-hosts on the show.
Yeah, that's right. Nancy Robertson, who plays Wanda on the show. You know, we met doing the show. I knew who she was beforehand, but we didn't really know each other. We knew who each other was. Just because, you know, she did Vancouver theater sports. She's one of the top comedic improvisers in the country. So you know, I knew who she was. And when I had originally written the character of Wanda to be older, we couldn't find somebody who was really nailing it. And we were having a hard time casting the part of Wanda. And our casting director said, well, would you be open to looking younger? And I said, yeah, no reason specifically why she couldn't be younger. And she said, because, you know, I think would be really funny in this part is Nancy Robertson. And I said, yeah, she's really funny. Let's see if she'll read for it. So she came in and auditioned, and she was immediately everybody's number one pick. She was like, here's our Wanda. So, yeah, we just started doing the show and got to know each other through work, and one thing led to another.
There you go. And so my next question I'm going to ask you right after the break, but pertains to that. And I was just in Toronto watching Charleston's game, and Charleston had 5 beautiful nights with his wife, Beth, right, and the kids. But my question to this, after the break we'll get into it, but my question is, how the hell do you work and then come home and still stay married? Because that's one of the longest age-old questions for people that are living and working with their wives and spouses. How the hell do you do it? But we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be right back and come back more with Brent Butt.
Hi, my name is Rob Peterson. I'm the broker owner of Realty One in Regina. Real estate and life is about great people, and that's why I'm associated with Charleston Hughes and Johan Zielinski and IKS to sponsor the Better with Age podcast. Realty One was founded in Regina 11 years ago. It's an independent brokerage, it's local, and it's full of great people helping great local Regina people buy and sell properties. It's entrepreneurial based, which means you have non-narcissistic agents that have your best interest in mind, not their own. In these coronavirus times, real estate market right now in Regina and Saskatchewan is thriving because people are thinking more local, they're not thinking about traveling because we can't, and that's driving our market. When you hire a realtor, no matter who it is, no matter what company, please interview them. Please make sure they're a good personal fit for you, because that's what this is all about. It's good people connecting themselves with someone that they know has their best interest in mind. And that's what the Realty One family does, and that's what a lot of agents in Regina do. But make sure you take your time and find the best fit for you and your family.
It's that time of year when divisions are decided, champions are crowned, and legends are born. Now, it's your turn to win big. You've heard the name just about everywhere, MyBookie. They're the industry's leading online sportsbook and casino, and it's not hard to understand why. With thousands of lines to bet on all your favorite sports, NFL, NBA, and college ball. Check, check, and check. MMA and soccer, they've got all the latest odds, period. Take advantage of MyBookie's prop builder and live in-game betting, where every single run, throw, and touchdown is another chance for you to put cash in your pocket. Visit their mobile-friendly website today and get your deposit matched halfway up to $1,000. Just use the promo code when you make your first deposit. The best part is they make it simple, with a variety of ways to deposit instantly, including credit card, bank transfer, Bitcoin, and more. Whether you're at home or on the go, on your laptop or on your phone, it's not too late to make your New Year's resolution a resolution to get paid. Bet, win, and get paid at MyBookie.
And we are back with a weird question from Johan. You know, after that long 18-minute break about rabbits and possums and all this stuff and skateboards and the rabbit jumped over the moon.
You never
See, I can't even do it. I can't even talk for that long about random stuff. The first thing that pops into my head. If I said the first thing that pops into my head every single time, I'd be in trouble a lot.
To be in prison.
Yeah. Well, you never wondered, Chuck, about how people can work and go to work and have a great relationship? Chuck, you never think about that or what?
Chuck, no, I definitely never. I definitely never think about that. I mean,
we lost.
He said
Chuck.
He works with his wife, and they always say, what's the saying? The happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
Like, does that convert you when you're working side by side with her all the time? Do you say, like, she does everything you say, you do everything she says? Like, which way is it going?
Well, I think it's kind of, well, so for us, I can't speak for everybody, but I mean, I'm not puzzled at the notion of working, well, like, how do you work with your wife and then come home and spend time with your wife? I think if you've married the right person, that's a big chunk of it right there. Yeah. That's a big piece of the pie. That makes it a lot easier. But for Nancy and I, we started with a working relationship. So, you know, at our work, I was the boss and she was, an actor hired to do a job. I was executive producer. And so we had this existing working relationship. So it was easy to maintain that. Whereas I could see maybe it might be more difficult if a husband and wife had never worked together, they'd been married for some time, and now they went into a dynamic where they were working together. Maybe that would cause an issue. But I don't know. Like, it's just, like I said, a big part of it, I think, is also the fact that we weren't kids when we got married. You know, we'd been around the block. We were full-grown, mature adults. So you can roll with stuff and you can hammer stuff out. But for the most part, we just enjoy each other's company. That's a big part of it. Yeah. She makes me laugh. I make her laugh. And we like a lot of the same things. It's one of the reasons that we, first started talking a lot in between takes and in between scenes was we both liked old movies. That was one of the first things that we we would talk about old movies that other people around us had no frame of reference.
Yeah. So that's a marriage tip on Better with Age webcast here with Brent Butt. How to stay married? Have something in commmen. There you go. Wise word.
Enjoy each other's
Marry the
company.
right-
If you
marry
don't
the right
enjoy each
damn
other's
person.
company, yeah, that's 90%. Wow, that's a big chunk of the battle. If you manage to marry the right person, it really makes it easy.
Yeah.
So is there any one show, Brent, or a few shows that stand out in your mind, like maybe great cameos or the fun times, or obviously probably the last show in Saskatchewan there in Rollo, but is there any few shows of Corner Gas that really have stood out in your mind? Or
Yeah, we had a lot of fun cameos. We had the Tragically Hip came on.
Yeah.
And just played. They played. I refer to them as a local band. Some local kids have a band, and we opened my garage, and the Tragically Hip were in there playing, and I kicked them out. That was a pretty magic moment. And the weird thing about that too was it was the first scene that we shot that day, and then they were going to hop on a plane and head back to wherever their next gig was. So it was like 7 a.m. or something, and we're doing that scene. And we have our set that's like a garage, and they got their equipment in there, and they're just while the cameras are setting up and everything, they're just playing this. So it's like a private concert for the biggest band in the nation is just in our studio doing a concert for, our cast and crew. That morning also, we had probably 5 times as many crew as we normally would have. For some reason, everybody's cousin suddenly worked on the show that day. Oh no, I'm just here working. And all huddled around. And what we got like a private Tragically Hip concert.
That is awesome. Yeah.
I remember Daryl
that's pretty
Sittler
cool.
was another. When Daryl Sittler came on, man, people were coming out of the woodwork, and they had stuff for him to sign, and it was fun watching all these 40-year-old men turn into 8-year-old boys around Daryl Sittler.
Well, and that's funny you mentioned that because I was just in Toronto watching Charleston's game, and one of my favorite players growing up was Mike Pinball Clemens. And we've had him on the show, and how charismatic he is and how energetic. And again, I turned into that little kid, Chuck. I said, Chuck, let's go talk to Pinball. And so we go over and talk to Pinball, and I'm that 8-year-old kid with the jersey saying, Chuck,
Can you sign my jersey?
Yeah. And I was like, can you please, there's Pinball. And, he said something to me. He said something to me. He goes, hey, oh, yeah, how's the show going? How you doing? And he goes, oh, yeah, you're from Saskatchewan. How was the drive? And I was like, that joke went over my head. And I said, no, sir, we came by plane. And, I was just like, oh, my God, I missed his joke. I was just so, like a kid, I was just froze. And Chuck's looking at me, and he's just going, what the hell's wrong with him? Johan, step out of it. But then it takes a while, right? When you meet an athlete, when you meet a comedian, when you meet an entertainer, it brings you back to that childhood, I think, and you do that. And that's the cool part. And
I've been lucky enough to meet a few of my comedic heroes. And, I'm a mess. Like I met Bob Newhart, and
wow.
I grew up loving both his shows, the one in the 70s and then the one in the 80s, and his albums. And I got to meet him, and I almost chewed my tongue off trying to talk to him.
What, do you remember what you said or what happened? Was that interaction?
Oh, I started telling him my favorite jokes from his shows, like he would have any memory of it. And he was nice about it. He was gracious.
I was about to say, he probably remembered every moment, too.
He said, oh, no, we had some really good writers on that show. That's he was very nice. And I got to meet John Candy very briefly, and that was I'm thankful it was brief, actually, because it was I was like just a complete moron. I was just like, can I take your hand?
Well, Chuck, is there anybody that you've met like that when you're like that? Any athletes or anybody that you've met, Charleston, like that?
Not really, man. I can't recall nobody.
Like Michael Vick, or when you were?
I'm just boring.
Yeah, but when you're,
I'm not cool like you guys. I didn't get a chance to meet Charleston's my hero. You know, somebody that I would
Well, I know.
that I would probably want to meet would be like Floyd Mayweather. I would want to meet Floyd Mayweather in person. I think that'd be pretty cool, a cool experience. Just because he's like one of the greatest, you know, athletes right now of all time, really, especially at his sport and just in general, really, to see somebody dominate like that. I think when I met Brent Butt, I was surprised because I really kind of didn't have no clue. I just knew that we were on tour together because we went to Macklin, Saskatchewan.
Yeah, I can't remember now the name of the towns, but yeah, we went to a couple places.
Yeah, it was like.
But I'll tell you, my
like
buddies, my buddies back in Saskatchewan, when they found out I was doing this run with you, they were now. It was like now I'd made it. They were like, "Holy hell! You're going to be in the same car with Charleston Hughes, the same vehicle." Yeah, believe it or not,
Charleston's big time.
Yeah, so it was a weird experience for me because I was thinking like, okay, they got me as an opener for a comedian, and I'm thinking like, oh man, like I ain't telling no jokes really, so I'll just go up there, and you know I'm always unscripted, so I just go up there and kind of just start talking and tell my story and talk life, really talk football.
It was great.
Yeah,
they ate it up with a spoon.
Stories.
I loved it. But like being if you're a Rough Rider in Saskatchewan, that's rarefied air. Like I don't think people really understand what it means in Saskatchewan, what the riders mean to Saskatchewan. I mean, people have an idea of it, but it's the only game in town. And if you're a Saskatchewan Rough Rider, it's like being it's like being a mob boss in New Jersey. There's like immediate reverence / fear, but admiration. It's everything. So when you see, if you're a little kid in Saskatchewan and you see a real live Saskatchewan Rough Rider in person, like at the store or something like that, your first tendency is to mess yourself. You're just going to dump a load because it's like, holy hell, he's a Rough Rider. In Saskatchewan, it means something more than it means anywhere else. Yeah,
and that's funny, and that's a huge. It is. That's the way it is here in Saskatchewan. Is that you just see that athlete, you see that Saskatchewan Rough Rider, and that's why there's so much passionate fans, I think, across Canada that are Rough Rider fans because they grow up like that, and it doesn't leave them at all. And it was fun because when we got to take Charleston and I became friends through drinking together, basically. And then when we would go to small town charities, we'd go to Imperial, Saskatchewan, and we'd show up at their charity rink. You'd see all these kids and all these, adults, and everybody's, oh my God, that's Charleston Hughes. And they're just like, oh my God, this is the best ever. And that's how Saskatchewan is. And you see the passion. Even right now when he's playing in Toronto, you see on Twitter, so many people are very supportive of Charleston because of all the things he did in Saskatchewan and continues to do in Saskatchewan. So let's talk a little bit about Twitter, Mr. Butt. You are one of those guys that I see on Twitter and I love. If you haven't followed Brent Butt on Twitter, do it. Obviously, he's got his comedic moments, but you're also very... you're engaged with some people on there. Do you like being on Twitter? And you're not afraid to share your opinion. You're not afraid whether that's a pandemic issue or have one side or the other. But how good is Twitter for you to be able to go back and kind of converse with people and to state your opinion and not be afraid of the backlash?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Twitter. I was a fairly early adopter. I started my account in 2009. So I've been on Twitter at Brent Butt since 2009. And, mostly 90% of what I do is just try to crack wise, make a couple of jokes here and there. Most of it's goofy stuff. Every now and then, I'll get a bee in my bonnet about something, and I'll put it out there. But it's not like it's an overly... Like I just did a tweet the other day that took off, kind of blew up. It was like 28,000 likes or something.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like almost 1 million people have seen this tweet now. And it was basically me just saying, stop acting like pandemic mandates are some tyrannical attack on your rights and freedoms. Don't act like this is the first time you've been regulated, Like you're not allowed to drive drunk. You're not free to drive drunk. It's not your right to take a dump on Main Street. When you live among other people, there are going to be rules, right? For the betterment of to protect the group. That's what it's about. So stop acting like it's a freedom issue. You've had a million vaccines before. That's what's kept the species alive. It's why your parents don't have polio. This is this weird notion that like somehow the science of not spreading disease, which we've known for 2 centuries, somehow because of a couple of yahoos with political motivations, it became a political hot button to where it's, now if you believe in science, you are on this political spectrum. And it's like, really? That's not just science. So now it's like, if you say the sun came up this morning, I know how you vote.
Yeah.
It's moronic to me. This is 200-year-old science, and it's been proven time and time again, and people are getting their news feeds from kind of people who shout down top epidemiologists and say, I read on Facebook that's not the truth. And you're like, you're talking to the guy spent 40 years of his life studying how diseases replicate and spread. But you read from a guy on Facebook that's not how it works, and that's where you're going to go. So I have a limited amount of, I don't look at it as taking a side any more than if somebody came up to me and said, I can run faster than an airplane can fly. I would say, no, I don't think that's the case at all. Oh, he's really taking a stand. No, I'm not really.
So we have so you said that you're a Ryder fan before in the past, right? Correct? Being from Tisdale?
Yeah, still am too. Yeah.
Good. Okay, so we have a big.
I don't see no some Ryder memorabilia behind you nowhere.
Is there anything behind you?
I'm over here. I got my behind my Canada jersey over there. I have
some
Ryder jersey.
Okay.
Sometimes I do things where
that works
I can't
that
have.
Works then. You're official.
Okay, so how about this? We wanted to try and think of something that, Riders. Toronto plays in Saskatchewan on September 17th. And is there something we can do or a bet that we can have with Brent Butt that we can do for us versus Brent Butt? Anything that we can do if the Argos win, we'll send you a Charleston Hughes jersey. You got to wear it while drinking bourbon on Twitter. If the Riders win, we'll wear the Corner Gas gear, and we'll donate to your charity. Or is there something that you would want to be able to?
But like wearing Corner Gas gear, that just makes you cool.
I know, that's the thing that I was saying.
Like you should be doing that anyway. That's like this is a real no-lose scenario for you.
I'm trying to give me something to work with here, Brent. Then let's go. Let's think of something that would be.
No, I'm not. Next thing you know, I'm tied into a whole thing. Forget it. Forget it with your.
Okay. Well, how about this? We'll just cheers each other on Twitter. If the Argos win, then you owe us a cheers on Twitter. If not, we'll throw it back at your way, and we'll get Charleston.
I need a go Argos go.
if the Argos.
No, man, not even John Candy could get me to cheer for the Argos. So I don't like your chances.
Yeah. Well, Brent,
he owned the damn team.
Yeah.
He was my comedic hero, and he owned the team, and he couldn't get me to cheer.
Charleston, I think Charleston's gone.
Oh,
there he goes.
He stormed out in a huff. Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, he pissed me off. Said he ain't gonna cheer for the Argos.
Now you got mad Charleston going here. Chuck, anything you wanted to be able to ask Mr. Brent Butt?
No, man, I think that was it, man. We just wanted to bring you on, chat with you for a little bit, see what's going on, see what kind of joke. Tell me a joke.
Don't go down this road.
All right. Yeah. So there's a leopard, right? He's doing his taxes.
One thing I want to say, Brent, is that we have a mutual friend. We have Dwayne Dewey Voigt. your friend from
Yeah,
Tisdale.
you know, he's a good friend of yours. You don't know how to say his last name.
Yeah, I know. That's it. I used to work with him at jump.ca for a bit, and I was trying to get some information about you, and I said, hey, Dewey, do you have anything?
Uh-oh.
Do you have anything? Any funny stories you can tell from Tisdale? I'll give you beer because I sell beer. And and then he was such a good friend. He said, "No, even for beer, Johan, I'm not going to be able to give you anything for beer." And he loves
that's loyalty. Yeah, and he enjoys a beer. That's for sure.
many beers, but yeah,
Dewey the Dewdrop. Yeah, no, he's my oldest friend. He and I started hanging out when we were 4 years old.
Yeah, that's
How's that? His parents bought a house that was a kind of kitty corner and just down the block from where I lived, and we started playing as kids do when we were 4 years old. So we've known each other for over 50 years, me and Dewey.
That's awesome. Wow. That's friendship. That's great. And he didn't rat you out. He didn't say anything. So that's a good, loyal friend to be able to do that.
Awesome. Which is, it makes me kind of feel bad because I would rat him out in a heartbeat for half a bag of chips.
Yeah, he did. He goes,
throw him under the bus. Terrible.
He did go. He goes, he likes his dog. He likes the Canucks. And he used to drink Crown and Cheesies before the shows. And then I was just laughing. I was okay.
Yeah.
Well, one thing.
Yeah, it's the one thing on my rider. When I do a show rider, I have have a bottle of rye and a bag of Hawkins Cheesies.
Nice. That's a good start. One thing I wanted to be able to, I'm going to be in Vancouver soon. I want to be able to make sure I saw you like some bourbon. I'm going to be giving you a special batch of this Four Roses bourbon, making sure that you can get that there. Thanks again for coming on our show.
Well, damn, he getting a special treatment. Oh, man. Nice. Hold on.
Nice.
When did that become
It's good to be the king of comedy worldwide. It's good to be.
Self-proclaimed by Johan Lazinski. Yeah, Chuck, you'll get a bottle next time you're here too, so don't worry. Come on now, don't be getting upset.
Damn, I'm mad now. Now I'm really pissed off. I'm mad for real.
You're mad at him. You're mad at me. What are you? Are you ever happy? So, Brent, but thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciated it. It
was my pleasure.
It's one of the things to be able to come on. We know that you are promoting, or if we're able to help out a cause, we can be able to go and find you on Memo, is it?
It's memo.me, memmo.me. So it's memo.me. And it's basically a place where you can order up personal video greetings. So if you want a video greeting from me, go to memo.me. And half the money, half of everything that I raise via memo.me, I give away to various charities on a month-to-month basis.
That's awesome. Go and request. Everybody go and request your videos from Brent.
MMO.me.
And make sure it's a long joke.
MMO.me.
There you go. Charleston always closes off our show, Brent, with some of his wise words. So I'm going to throw it over to him for the closure of the show.
The wisest man on the block. The wisest guy. But the one thing is, this is the Better With Age webcast. And the reason we call this the Better With Age webcast, Brent, is because there's many things that get better with age. There's wine, there's whiskey, there's leather, there's every joke that you tell, it just gets longer and longer and gets stretched out even more, and it just keeps getting better. And that's the one great thing about this whole entire show is everything gets better with age. And the one time that me and you went on tour together and I opened up for you and I got to hear your joke and watch you perform in person, it inspired me to know that I'm never going to be talented enough to become a comedian. And the thing is that you are talented, buddy, and you got it. You're funny. I watch Corner Gas myself, too. I encourage everybody else to go out there and watch it. But the most important thing of them all is friendships, man. So now that you're a friend of the Better With Age webcast crew, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, it was my pleasure. It's great to see you again. Great to hang out for a few minutes and have a few laughs.
That is.
Yes, sir. Probably see you again in a few.
No Argos go before we close off here, Brent. Sure. No Argos go. No Argos go before you go.
Absolutely none. Zero. Go Riders.
There we go. All right. Thanks, Brent. Take care.
All right. See you guys.